I like when Steve Cordesco tells me about listeners of mine who've contacted him, as I have recommended. For example, one of my listeners in Tampa, single woman, mid-40s, working with a financial advisor who did not do tax planning, rebalanced her portfolio, but didn't tell her in advance. That created unexpected capital gains issues, more than $10,000 in terms of a tax bill. Heard me talk about Steve Cordasco and Mercer Advisors, made the call. The team was able to locate other losses to help her offset that big tax bill. Now she's a client. No more surprises. Call the same number that I've called and she has called. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network. That's a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Andrew Garrett, Inc., which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial or Mercer. Client experiences will vary. Successful outcomes are not guaranteed. Time now for the headlines from Smerconish.com, the newsletter, TC. Your thoughts on the social media from the weekend?
Well, first I have to say that you've been talking about Roger Waters and
Yes.
the video, the uncut video, which is, I think,
What a story.
Crucial and critical to the story, is now over 246,000 views, which I just think is indicative of people wanting to see what exactly are you talking about, and important that you release the whole thing at the time, not in reaction, but at the time.
Yeah. The only people who are ecstatic about the Roger Waters controversy are PJ and Randy at Creative Outfit.
They should be justifiably proud of themselves.
By the way, not only, run my YouTube component, but also Creative Outfit recorded the interview.
Yeah.
You might ask the question, Michael, how were you able to release the entire Roger Waters interview? It's because I am the one who commissioned PJ and Randy to record it.
Right. Exactly.
And TC, you're right to point out, it's not as if the controversy breaks about editing the tape and then I release.
No. That's really important.
I released it instantly.
You were at the time because you know why? Because you were proud of it and you should have been, and you felt that you gave a good cut. I mean, you felt good about what you aired on CNN.
I wished even more could have been shown on CNN.
Of course.
Roger Waters.
You would have aired the whole thing on CNN if you could have.
Right. Roger jokes with me, hey, you already told me you're only going to use 4 minutes. We ended up using 6.5 minutes.
So happy.
And the interview was, how about the fact that I emailed him on the day it ran?
Right.
And said, hey, man, I hope you like it because I tried to be fair. And I think it's a really good representation. And then it was like, radio silence.
Right. And continued radio silence until things were said on stage.
I know. But the idea, like he's in Washington this week.
Wow.
He's in Washington this week. He's got 2 nights coming up at Madison Square Garden. He's got 2 nights coming up in LA. And the idea that he's now blaming me for no shows is ridiculous.
I know.
Is ridiculous. What else caught your eye from?
Well, there are some questions about the bicycling video.
Okay. Do ask. That was recorded Saturday.
Okay. So recorded Saturday and posted on Instagram. If you're not following Michael on Instagram, get with it. Come on, let's go.
2-hour bike ride. And 10 seconds I recorded.
People want to know, is it an electric bike? They quote,
Didn't see a lot
of pedaling.
One of my sons, my middle son, said to me, Dad, you look ridiculous in that bike video. And I said, why? And he said, like you obviously filmed it yourself and moved the camera around. I said, yeah, I did a pretty good job. And he said, looks steady.
Yes.
And I said, I assure you, I was pedaling. I do not have. There's no.
I'm just putting it out there.
There's no electric bike.
People are asking.
No, I was on a smooth
Were you coasting?
Main street.
Maybe coasting downhill a little bit.
And flat street. I know exactly where I was.
So do I. I recognize it.
Swear to you, I was pedaling. I was pedaling my ass off. Okay. That was a good day, a nice active day, up very early in the morning. Did the CNN show, lunch with my mom, long bike ride, out to dinner, living life. It's like a full day. I was pedaling.
Oh my God.
Survey results Friday, 12,000 and change voted. When we know what was found at Mar-a-Lago, will we reach consensus as to the propriety of the search? 57% and change said no. And they were correct. There will not, and I said this on CNN this weekend, there will not be the emergence of one truth. No matter what, a smoking gun that he used to shoot someone on Fifth Avenue could have been found next to the golf shoes It's not going to resolve this. Saturday, this is interesting. Did the search of Mar-a-Lago boost Trump's odds of being the 2024 GOP nominee? We had 33,189 votes. 69.79, 70% said no. No, that search did not boost his odds. Well, it has until now. The only way it will not boost his odds is if he's indicted and for something significant. Because otherwise, thus far, it has aided him, in my opinion. Yesterday, yet another Trump-related survey poll. Did the retrieval of classified information necessitate a Mar-a-Lago search? Was this necessary? 90% of 13, close to 14,000 said yes. Today, it's not a Trump question. 1 year ago today, Kabul fell to the Taliban. Poll question today, did the U.S. leave Afghanistan too soon? Did the U.S. leave Afghanistan too soon? House Republicans have issued a report. They say at the height of the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan, there were only 36 State Department officials on the ground at the airport to process Afghans trying to evacuate. This figure meant that there was roughly one consular figure for every 3,444 evacuees. One of the stunning details of a previously undisclosed report, very critical of the chaotic withdrawal last August. It was a chaotic withdrawal. It was a chaotic withdrawal. And of course, it was last August 31st that a single suicide bomber killed 13 U.S. service personnel and at least 170 Afghans. It was the worst way to get out of Here's my view. To play on words from Churchill, it was the worst way to get out of Afghanistan, except for all the others. I don't know that there was a means of getting out that would not have been so chaotic. I'm just glad we're out. And the Taliban back to, I saw over the weekend this women in Afghanistan protesting because they've been shut out of school, and the Taliban show up and they fire guns in the air. It's horrific for women and for other persecuted minorities. But, there's only so much we can do in terms of policing the world. I'm happy we're out. Saddened for the families of the 13. Mindful of the fact that if we'd stayed another year, would we have lost another 13 by now? I don't know. I'm just glad we're out. In terms of, I stayed on top of all the Mar-a-Lago related news from the weekend. I thought the most significant story was from the New York Times, and we posted to it at Smerconish.com today. We're all still trying to figure out, what was the break point? Why did the Justice Department feel compelled to execute a search warrant at the former president's home? The Times says at least one lawyer for Donald Trump signed a written statement in June asserting that all material marked as classified and held in boxes in storage at Mar-a-Lago had been returned. So this was a written declaration after the June 3rd meeting where the top counterintelligence official at Justice comes out to Mar-a-Lago. Trump is there. He's gracious. There was then, thereafter, a signed declaration, not previously reported, where Trump's team says, we have nothing else. And then apparently, Justice gets information, maybe somebody dropped the dime, that they hadn't been forthcoming. And that is what gave rise to the search. At the end of the New York Times story over the weekend, there was this tidbit. Shortly before Mr. Garland made the announcement, a person close to Mr. Trump reached out to a Justice Department official to pass along a message from the former president to the Attorney General. So this is Trump reaching out for Garland through intermediaries before Garland spoke. That was last Thursday. Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. The message Mr. Trump wanted to convey: the country is on fire. What can I do to reduce the heat? Which is interesting. One last thing, and I said it earlier, and Evan Perez and I went over this on CNN. I think maybe the biggest, when you step back, I think the biggest takeaway from everything that has transpired in the last week is that we are aware of and have been knowledgeable about a number of investigations pertaining to Donald Trump. There's the January 6th committee. They don't have the power to indict him, but they can make a recommendation or a referral to justice, which justice is not obligated to take. We know that justice is looking at January 6th. We know that the Fulton County DA is taking a look at Trump's efforts vis-a-vis Raffensperger. We know that the New York Attorney General has this civil inquiry that could become criminal if the Manhattan DA takes a look at. There's a lot going on around Trump. But none of us knew there's a grand jury looking at his handling of documents, and that grand jury issued a subpoena. That's the biggest story out there. And I said to Evan Perez, who covers justice on CNN, this was news to me. Was it news to you? He said, yeah, it was news to all of us. So check that out. Democratic odds of holding the Senate, according to Nate Silver and 538, are now 61%. And I think it's going to be a repeat of the Christine O'Donnell, Todd Aiken cycle. When was that? 98, 2000. I lose track. Maybe much later. It was the Tea Party. So it probably would have been closer to 2010?
2010, exactly.
2010,
yes.
Okay. If I think about it long enough, I can come to the right answer. And of course, Election Day is tomorrow for Liz Cheney. This is interesting. Liz Cheney is widely anticipated, and I have Harry Enton's analysis. He's the number cruncher from CNN. I also have coverage from The Hill posted at Smerconish.com today. She is running against attorney Harriet Hagman, who has Trump's support, and she is badly trailing in the polls. The latest from the Casper Star Tribune has Liz Cheney at only 30% of the vote, compared to the 52% that Harriet Hagman has. Liz Cheney apparently tomorrow will become the last of the 10 House Republicans who voted for Trump's impeachment, second impeachment, to face primary voters. 4 have retired rather than seek re-election because they knew they'd lose. 3 lost to Trump-endorsed opponents. 2 will go on and face general election opponents. So Jamie Herrera Butler in Washington was the last Republican who voted for Trump's impeachment, lost her primary bid. Anthony Gonzalez from Ohio, remember him, the former NFL football player, first elected in 2018. He had announced in September of 2021 he would not seek a third term to the House. That was months after impeaching Trump. John Katko in New York, represents Syracuse and other upper parts of the state, announced almost 1 year after impeaching Trump he would retire at the end of his term. It's absolutely stunning. Adam Kinzinger, apart from Liz Cheney, the best known of this crew, said that he would retire at the end of the term. He was drawn out of, put into a district where he would have had to face Representative Darren LaHood, who was endorsed by Trump just before the same primary. Peter Meyer was with me here on POTUS a week ago. He's the Michigan, Jerry Ford, Grand Rapids district. He lost in his election, and this was one of those races where Democrats boosted his opponent. Hibbs, I think, is the name of the opponent. Just like in Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro boosting Doug Mastriano. If it's a strategy that wins, then everybody's going to say, that was brilliant. Like, who was the ad person? I need to get him or her for my campaign. But if it loses, you get a MAGA person in a position of authority. Representative Dan Newhouse from the state of Washington survived a primary challenge. Representative Tom Rice in South Carolina became the first Republican who backed Trump's second impeachment to lose re-election. Fred Upton in Michigan, the only lawmaker to vote to impeach 2 presidents, announced in April that he was retiring. Representative David Valledo, this was in California, he had won back his seat after having lost his seat, voted to impeach Trump 1 day after he was sworn back in. Trump stayed out of his race, as far as I recall. And he is now going to, he survived a jungle primary in California and now will square off against a Democrat, Rudy Salas, state assembly member in the fall. So that's the fate of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Trump in Trump 2. Read the Harry Enton coverage. It's just amazing that Liz Cheney, son of Vice President Dick Cheney, he's got a campaign commercial that he's running on Fox. The question is, and TC, this might be tomorrow's poll question. If Liz Cheney, as anticipated, loses, does she run for president?
She can't get through the primary.
Oh, no. She'd have to run as an independent.
Ooh.
As an independent. Right. And thank you for saying that because I'll have to make it clear.
Okay.
I will have to make it clear. We may do that tomorrow. Will you remind me?
I will absolutely remind you. The polling department is on it.
Best story of the day.
Wow.
We've saved it till now.
What is it?
And we have audio.
Oh.
We have audio.
Are we going to Colorado?
Have you ever had a dispute with your neighbor?
Not like this.
What if your neighbor was Congresswoman Lauren Boebert? So one of Lauren Boebert's, this is all courtesy of the Denver Post. The Denver Post granted access to a 911 call made by Congresswoman Boebert's neighbor. Do you want to do any further setting up on this?
Yeah. So the Congresswoman and her husband have 4 boys. And evidently, you'll hear it in the 911 call, but evidently the context of this call was that one of the sons was driving a Razor dune buggy. That's the type of dune buggy it is. They call it a Razor dune buggy up and down the street at really high speeds. And the adults on the street asked him to slow down, and he swore at them. You'll hear the very colorful language in this 911 call. And so this is, and then the son left, and then the husband came back to confront the neighbors who he said, like, hit their son or something like that. Anyway, here, sounds like this.
There's a domestic situation happening right in front of my driveway, and now he's driving away, I think, just about fighting. There's it's bad. It's Lauren Boebert's jackass husband, Jason. He's running over my mailbox right now. Stop, you jackass! Get the fuck out of here!
And you said, come
on, man!
Running over your
what
mailbox?
Are you doing? What did we do wrong?
Oh,
I live here. I didn't even.
Sir, talk to me, sir.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
I need
There's about to be some shit going down here.
Okay. Who is the gentleman that's been over your mailbox?
Jackass husband. Jason Boebert.
Jason? Okay.
Lauren Boebert.
What's he driving?
Yeah, Lauren Boebert, the congresswoman. He's driving a Ford pickup F-150. He's racing back up to his house.
Aren't we all driving a Ford F-150?
Yeah, you are.
The neighborhood.
Okay.
Dark gray. Charcoal gray.
And you said it was a domestic?
Neighborhood in a Razor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
He and her were arguing?
Just about came to blows. Huh?
Who was Jason arguing with?
Yeah, there's a lot of arguing.
Okay. Who was Jason arguing
Everybody
with?
In the
at
neighborhood.
The end of your driveway. Okay. So is his wife there, or is he just...
is at the end of my driveway. My wife is here. I'm here. My neighbor's here.
Okay.
His kid was racing up and down our 25-mile-an-hour street doing 50 miles an hour in a Razor, and then he told my neighbor to fuck off when he came out to tell him to slow down. And the next thing we know, his dad, Jason, comes down here trying to claim that somebody took a swing at his kid, and nobody did. But
I believe this guy.
I so believe this guy. It's unbelievable.
This guy is so irrational. So irrational. He just got chest to chest, face to face, looking to fight. And we're talking about everybody in the neighborhood. Everybody here is a neighbor. So he just drove off. He's at his house. He just went up the street.
He's at his house now?
Yep.
Okay.
I think my neighbor called the sheriff earlier, or 911. I don't know.
What's the
there
address
hasn't
of his
been
house,
any
sir?
response.
Do you know the address of his
Nobody got
house?
arrested, right? They all decided not to
I think it's
pursue
it's okay now, but the calls are really something.
Same side of the street, probably 4 houses up.
Okay.
Wait, there's a little more.
Has anybody been drinking or doing drugs?
I don't know. Not anybody here.
Okay.
We just live here. We're asking his kid to slow down, and he flipped out.
Understand.
Jason's probably drunk, so he's you could probably
Did
get
he
him
have
for
any
DUI
weapons?
because he just drove down here.
sir, did he have
I'm
any
sure
weapons?
he's loaded to the hilt. Do you know who his wife is?
I
Lauren
do.
Boebert. She's
Okay.
loaded. They all have guns. Yes.
Okay.
They all have
They all
guns.
have guns. I mean, and it goes on. It goes
Oh
on.
my God.
So that is some real audio. So if you have a peaceful neighborhood, just be glad for that. Just be glad for
It
that.
could be worse. You could live next to the Boeberts.
You could.
The Boeberts.
Wow.
They're dune buggy kids and their guns and their booze. All right.
Okay.
Wasn't that a good story?
Okay. Good way to end. Good way to
Ladies
end.
and gentlemen, would you kindly go to Smerconish.com and vote on today's poll question, which asks, what did I say that it asks? It asks all about, let me just get it for you literally. Did the U.S. leave Afghanistan too soon? And maybe tomorrow we'll ask about Liz Cheney and does she run for president as an independent if, as anticipated, she loses. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. And make sure you listen to TC After Dark. I confess I didn't listen yet. I normally do
food
on
stories. Do you like the food stories?
I do.
Yeah.
But I ended up listening to me
Who can blame you?
interviewing
Priorities, you know
Kyle
what I'm saying?
Cheney. In the drive that I normally get caught up on TC After Dark, I listened to the book club release with Kyle Cheney.
Kyle Petty.
Kyle Petty.
Well,
I think I've got Liz
you got
Cheney
Liz
on the brain. Yeah.
And
I loved it.
People
I love that
love-
interview.
It's interesting to me that people love that interview who knew nothing about NASCAR. And
Right.
I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of them. So
Yeah.
I get it.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was great.
It was really fun. All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya.